Tonight we'll be making, I guess you could call this fat-free cornbread. The recipe calls it healthy cornbread. I don't know what you want to call it. It's a simply filling cornbread, which means this is 0 points for me because all the ingredients are simply filling ingredients. If this sounds like something you want to make, pop it in your recipe builder and see. I've already put the dry ingredients in here. I have 1 cup of just plain cornmeal, not cornmeal mix, just plain cornmeal. This is a 1/2 cup of cream of wheat. In case you're not familiar with cream of wheat, I had to open a new box, so I have this one. It's the 2.5 minute, just regular old cream of wheat. Then I have a 1/3 cup of sweetener, and I'm using monk fruit. I have 1 teaspoon of baking powder and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And I'm going to go ahead and whisk these ingredients together. I'm preheating my oven to 400. Now, something I do when I make cornbread is, when I make cornbread, I use bacon grease. So I heat my bacon grease in my cast iron pan in the oven while it's preheating, and then I pour that bacon grease into my cornbread. That's how I've always done it. Well, this does not use bacon grease, and the little bit of oil in it is not enough to melt and pour back in here. So while this heated up, I just let my pan sit in there and warm up. And before we'll talk about it in a minute, before we do it, I'm going to spray it with olive oil. But I thought I'd just mention that while it's heating, that's an optional step. It's just a step I take. You don't have to do that. Now we're going to add in our wet ingredients. So we have a 1/2 cup of skim milk, 2 teaspoons, they say olive oil. I use avocado oil. You could use vegetable oil, whatever kind of oil you want. 1 cup of fat-free sour cream and a 1/2 cup of unsweetened applesauce. And I almost forgot 2 eggs. And then we just want to mix all this together. Okay, so here's my hot pan. Now I don't want to put cooking, oh, you can see how hot it is. You see that bubbling? I don't want to put cooking spray on my cast iron because it has that, I don't know if it's like lecithin or whatever it is that will leave a residue, and I don't want to risk that on my well-seasoned cast iron pans. Now, the recipe did not state what size pan. It just says put in pan and bake. I just kind of, excuse me, guesstimated from the amounts in the recipe to use my 8-inch, and you can see that fits perfect. So put it in an 8-inch pan. If you don't have an 8-inch round one, I guess 8-inch square. I don't know that that's as much surface as this. You do your best judgment. You see that it fits in an 8-inch round cast iron pan. So if you don't have that, pick what you have that's closest to this. Now it's supposed to bake at 400 for 35 minutes, and we'll be back then. Alright, so here it is, 35 minutes later. You can see it's completely done. It smells delicious. So we are going to cut into this and see how close it comes to some cornbread. A little bit stuck to the bottom. This, I'm thinking, Since there's not really any fat to speak of in here, it's not, you can see that stuck and it got brown, but I'm thinking since there's not any fat to speak of, I wouldn't preheat my pan just for that fact alone. There's nothing wrong with the cornbread, but okay, there's the texture. It's a little airy looking, so let's cut into it. Yeah, I would not preheat the pan like I do when I have my bacon grease. I think that was just a bit too much for it. So there is what the inside looks like. It's not exactly like cornbread. It doesn't. It looks more like a bread, but that cream of wheat, that's what's doing that. So I'm gonna let this cool down enough to where I can taste it, where it's not so hot in my mouth, and I will let you know honestly what I think because I love my cornbread. Okay, so here is my honest opinion. It does not taste like regular cornbread because it's a softer texture. It's more of a bread texture. You still get the cornmeal, but it's the cream of wheat that makes it more like a bread. But here's the thing. This is simply filled. This is 0 points. When I get this up under my beans, that's what, when I make pinto beans, I need cornbread because I like to put my beans and my juice on top of the cornbread. I think it's going to be a wonderful substitute. Now, I think it could use more salt to give it more flavor. When I tasted it by itself, then I added some of the spray butter, and that added some salt to it. That helped a lot. So I think, no, I know I will make this again. Most of this will go in the freezer because David, if he even eats one piece, that'll be still the whole rest of the cornbread I got to do something with. I'm not going to waste it. So while it does not taste like cornbread, it is a perfectly acceptable substitute on my Simply Filling program. I think you may even like it. I've made Weight Watchers corn muffins and whatnot that taste more cornbready, but like I said, for 0 points on my plan and going to have beans all over it, I'll take it. So there you have it. And this was a recipe on jennifermaker.com. I forgot to tell you that. When I link it on my website, I'm just going to link it straight to hers because I didn't change anything. I left it just like it was. So there you have it. I guess we'll call it healthy cornbread. That's what she called it. So, all right. I will see you in my next video.